Mavs Fans for Life podcast. I am Landon Thomas, joined by my co-host Shahnavaz Makhani, Mr. Second Round for the Mavericks. How do you? I mean, we can go into it, but let's just start. How do you feel after last night's victory?
Man,
and just the Mavericks finally overcoming their foe, the LA Clippers.
I called it. Said it in 6. I think we both did, if I remember correctly. It's a great victory. Last night, I think in particular, showed what this team is capable of and what this team can do. The 2 losses were kind of brutal.
Yes.
Being down 30.
That's an understatement.
And coming back. Yeah, I mean, but I had a little bit of confidence even in those losses. Not the way that the Mavs started, but the way they finished, right? They could have easily rolled over and just, let things go. But the fact that they kept fighting till the end and still made those games relatively competitive at the end, I think said a lot about what this team is capable of and who this team is. And I think last night you saw, all the pressure was on the Mavericks, I think, playing at home, a game where, James Harden and Paul George, the Clippers desperately needed this, obviously, to get it back to LA. And you kind of saw a little, the Mavs a little slow out of the gate, and even Luka, again, still struggling with the shot, but the physicality, the defense, by everybody. And Kyrie talked about it after the game. Everyone buys in on defense. And it starts with him and Kyrie, with him and Luka. If they're doing it, everyone else is going to buy in, and you see that trickle down. You saw guys like Josh Green just out-hustle the Clippers. Daniel Gafford just abusing Ivica Zubac down low. I mean, every single player that played contributed in some way, shape, or form. And that's something that this team hasn't had in a long time. And then, of course, the Mavericks have never had a player like Kyrie Irving next to Luka Doncic. And so seeing him, 2 points in the first half and then take over in the second, we've talked about it all year, second half Kyrie. And he proved it again, and just ridiculous shot making. I mean, that 3 in the corner, on the wing against 3 defenders was vintage Kyrie Irving. I mean, the fact that you've got him on your team in a playoff run, he's, I think, 13-0 now in elimination games.
That's insane.
He's 4-0 in elimination games. So this is the matchup that we wanted as Mavs fans, and I'm sure the Mavs wanted this. I'm sure Luka wanted this going in, saying, I want the Clippers. Like, you've got to get over that hump. And we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. And the Mavericks did it, and they did it in fairly convincing fashion.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's absolutely insane. 13-0 when you're closing out your opponent, and 4-0 with Jason. I mean, kid, that's hard to do. I mean, not even one loss in those type of scenarios just shows you the demeanor that they have, that they're always poised. And they're we mentioned it on the podcast. I mean, they're both the same person, really. I mean, they're both born on the same day, but they have the same calmness to them no matter what the situation is. They've been through all these scenarios. It's not like some of the younger players on the team where, they haven't been through the fire. They haven't been in these type of scenarios where you're trying to close the team out. It could have easily went the other way and they go back to LA and see what happens. But no, they actually stepped up, and you're right. It follows Luka and Kyrie's lead because those 3 have been in these scenarios. And This is a young team. It's kind of weird to say that because, Lively's 20 and you have PJ, Gafford, Luka, Derek Jones Jr., they're all around the same age. And it feels like a veteran team, but they're still in their mid-20s. So that's the beauty of this team.
Crazy to think Derek Jones Jr. is the same age. Like, I don't think people realize how young he is.
He plays like 32.
Yeah, and he's played
in a good way.
Yeah, played on 7 different teams, and I think he's finally found a home. But it's crazy to think that he's that young. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, and it's crazy not only to think about the present, but think about the future, because they finally beat their this is probably their biggest rival in Luka's tenure. I know the Suns try to make it compete with the Clippers as the top rival for Luka, but that really fizzled out when they changed the roster. And I mean, every time you get Booker and Luka, it's a great time, but Clippers are really truly his rivals. They played this was their third time playing in the playoffs. That's crazy. And he's
Yeah.
only a young age. So, you finally beat them. It's kind of like the MJ finally beating the Pistons, to finally see. But Luka's been to the Western Conference Finals, but just seeing Luka and Kyrie is, Mr. Second Half. I told him last night too, after the post conference, I said, "Hey man, you're second half king." It's shown in the whole series. Like, he's Mr. Second Half, which is great because you said it. They don't have to fall on their threes. They don't have to fall on Luka scoring 40 points a night. Like, it's a truly balanced team. Like, that's what's crazy to watch, is just the unpredictability of this team. In the years past, it's been, Luka in defense. But
Yeah.
now it's so many players can step up at any game. That's what's great to see with this team.
And they can beat you in a bunch of different ways now. Like,
Yes.
it's not just, Luka's got to take. I mean, you go back to the other playoff series. I mean, the Mavericks were only in those against the Clippers because of Luka. Like,
Yeah.
Porzingis didn't do anything. Brunson was benched. Trey Burke was getting minutes over him. I mean, Luka
Oh, I
kept
can't wait to see that Brunson versus Carlisle.
versus Carla. That's going to be fun. Like Luka carried the team, and now he doesn't have to, and they can beat you with their threes. They can out physical you. They can out rebound you. There's a bunch of different ways they can cater their game. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's like, see how the opponent comes out, and the adjustments that Jason Kidd has to make in terms of what kind of style do they have to play to be able to win that game. And I think that's what some of the struggle was with the mind games from the Clippers of, is Kawhi going to play? Is Kawhi not going to play? Right. I think that's where kind of the struggle came from, of, and the Clippers shooting 60% from three, which I think we all knew wasn't going to happen again.
Yeah.
But that's the best thing about this Mavs team now, is they can kind of shift what they do and match up with really any opponent, and kind of, figure out what style of game they have to play based on that particular matchup.
And that's what you saw with the Clippers. I mean, they forced Harden, to score floaters and go to the paint. No threes. At first, it looked horrible because you didn't have your big man. Obviously, you love small ball, but if you're going to force Harden and PG to go in the lane, Norman Powell's going to shoot threes no matter what. But Harden and PG, if you're going to force them to kill you in the paint, you have to have a big man to protect the rim. I think Lively is perfect for that role. Gafford, we saw him have stretches, good and bad. But, he ultimately finished good, which helped the Mavs win the series. So, it was just good to see Kidd change his scheme, his strategy just a bit, where you want to see them playing big, and it worked for them. So that was good to see that Kidd's making the necessary adjustments.
Yeah, and hoping Maxey is healthy, because he was great this series. I mean,
playoff riser,
man. 10 of 18 from three this series. Like,
that's incredible.
He was phenomenal. And I know he struggled a lot, down the stretch in the regular season, but man, like when the Mavs needed it, he stepped up. And I got to give a lot of credit. I tweeted this out last night, but I got to give a lot of credit to Josh Green, because the guy who through the injury and was kind of, it felt, we talked about it when we did our grades, it kind of felt like he was a little in and out of the rotation at the end. And it was like, what's his role going to be in the postseason? He
always does that to us, right? Like,
he does. And how many times have we said, seize your opportunity, right?
Yeah.
With Tim Hardaway Jr. out, this is the perfect time for Josh Green to say that I can be that guy. And he's hitting, those corner threes. It's just his hustle last night. I mean, getting those offensive rebounds and steals and the passes he made. I mean, he was phenomenal last night. So hats off to him, for playing the game that, that the way that we expected him to earlier in the year.
Yeah, definitely hats off to him. It's incredible to see what he's done. He always does that to us. We jump on his bandwagon, and we're like, yes, Josh Green is part of the future core. And then, then he struggles or he gets injured, and it's tough because we're like, oh dang, well, he's not playing good, and we just speak the facts. And then once we're, on the Exum train or other guys who are playing really good, Josh Green pulls you right back
Yep.
in.
There
He
you go.
pulls you right back in. He said, I'm still here. Maybe you think it's the goatee?
I think it's
You
a
see,
go-to.
with the
I think,
mustache and a little
yeah,
chin
I like
hair.
it. I like it, man.
Yeah.
He's trying to grow it out, trying to look a little bit older. I like it. Adds a little. Maybe it's adding something to his game.
That's what I like about this team is like it feels like this is kind of like of course a couple years ago we loved that playoff run, but like it kind of feels like this team is the same age as that team. It's like
Yeah,
totally different. Like they're all mid-20s, or Josh, like 22, 23, and then
yeah. They're all
Lively.
kids. They're all kids.
Yeah, they're
And
all kids.
it's funny.
Kyrie's the old man, which is
Yeah,
weird.
Kyrie's the old man, and it's funny you mentioned that because I saw something. I don't know where I saw this, but I heard something from Brian Windhorst,
Hmm.
on his podcast, and talking about Game 5 in LA, where he walked by the Clippers bench and everyone was tense and everyone was kind of nervous, and you know, Clippers are under a lot of pressure, obviously, with the team that they have. And he walked by the Mavs bench and everyone's goofing around and just having a good time, and it was like Luka was smiling and laughing, and there's a certain. I think this team really, really enjoys playing with each other, and I think Kyrie
Yeah.
adds that bit of he's been there before, he's done this before. He, as the leader on the team, can help relax the young guys, because this is a young team. You mentioned it, like these are a lot of 25 and younger kids on this team, and Kyrie is just helping them, like, hey, relax, just play your game, let's joke, let's do the same things we've done all year long. There's no reason to tense up. I love it. I mean, I think there's a chemistry with this team that you can't fake, and chemistry at this point in time in the playoffs is super, super important.
Yeah, well, speaking of Kyrie, let's listen to his post game after clinching the series over the Clippers.
I was just following the flow of the game, and then coming out at halftime, just being ready to use my conditioning to the best of my ability and beat them up and down the court. Continue to play some tough defense and get some easy ones for my teammates.
Kyrie, you're now 13-0 in closeout games. First part is, when you hear that stat, what goes through your mind, and what is it about you that makes you so comfortable in these situations?
I mean, when I hear 13-0, that's not my full playoff record, even though, I've had my fair share of battles with some of my peers in this league. But when I think about the 13-0 and closeout games in general, I just know we just got to get there to that point to be able to be ready to have the other team submit. And it's one of the hardest things to do as a competitor, is to have your opponent concede or submit. And I do want to take this time to give a respectful shout out, and also show my respect to the Clippers organization and the players that we went up against, my peers. It's always fun, and they got me better. And I told them that after the clock went on zero, I just thanked each and every one of them for getting me better and challenging me, and doing all the things that you would want as a competitor. So it was healthy, the series. Just for us to continue to grow as a team, continue to develop what our identity will be moving forward. And you just got to relish in those moments where you get a chance to go against some of the greatest in the world, and you're in Game 6 on your home floor. The record doesn't mean anything when you go out there. You still got to finish the job. So that's what I was thinking.
Kyrie, Coach Kidd discussed your perception in the past, and he had nothing but positive things to say about you. You've become like a fan favorite already in Dallas. Just what does that mean to you? Just the fans just embracing you here so far?
I mean, I've been in this league for a while now, so I'm just grateful for those that have been with me since the beginning, and those who are still rocking me now. All the new supporters, I'm grateful for them. It's a whole new generation that's watching me now, so I'm aware of that. Very responsible with what I say and what I do and how I approach my day-to-day life. And as a young person, I can say this, I wasn't really thinking about any of that. I really didn't have the understanding of who I was as a person to myself, and I had to figure that out. And then what you're seeing now is just a version of me that I'm proud of. I look at myself every day in the mirror. I give myself affirmations, and I meditate, I pray, and I'm just more consistent with my daily practices to help me stay grounded and balanced. And part of knowing who you are is knowing where you come from. been on a spiritual journey, figuring out who my mom's side of my family is, figuring out some family members from my dad. So basketball was, sometimes not the priority, but I was in season. So then probably things got mixed up emotionally, and I think people prejudged me without knowing who I was and knowing who I am and not really knowing where my family comes from. And all that is just part of the process of growing up in this world and growing up in life. So it's no time to blame anybody or hold grudges. I just look at it as an opportunity to help the next generation see that you can make it through the fire and still rise like a phoenix. So, and AAC was definitely rocking. I remember Maxey hitting, I think, what, 3 tonight, and I had never heard it that loud in there. So it's just to see the fans' reactions, to see them appreciate the game of basketball and also their home team. It feels good, and you feel right at home, like, just playing well. And even when we're not playing well, they still try to give us energy as best they can. Just knowing other fan bases that I've been a part of, it could get real toxic. So, here I think there's a good balance, and they like to protect their players. A lot of great players will come through here as well. So it's not like they haven't seen greatness before. I just think I'm in my era right now where we have a great team, and we should appreciate that and not take it for granted.
So Shahnavaz, you see Kyrie there and his answers, and just the journey he's been on as a player and a person. He really dives deep into his journey off the court as much as it on the court. We know how good he is on the court, but he really feels like Dallas is his home. I mean, it's crazy to say this because you wouldn't say that a couple of years ago. Like Kyrie in Dallas, he seemed like a big market guy. He's been in Cleveland so long. You expect Boston, now New York, and
Yep.
possibly LA. Now it's weird how the journey works where it pulls you in a different direction, and you find your piece. He talks about it with Jason Kidd, and he just talks about Dallas protecting him and accepting him, and really being home to him. What's your thoughts before we go to the Thunder, just on Kyrie's words on Dallas being home to him, and finding himself?
Yeah, it's some people have to take that journey. I think Kyrie's been through a lot. There's a lot from his childhood. That he went through, and being the number 1 overall pick and the pressure of playing next to LeBron. At such a young age.
Yeah.
I think he matured fast, and I think you could tell he was a mature guy coming out of Duke. I mean, he was a very smart guy, obviously, and playing under Coach K, and then going to Cleveland. And I think, obviously, look, he's made mistakes. We all have, right? But, the narrative on him has certainly changed, I think, in a lot of people's minds. And I think a lot of that has to do with what he's done in Dallas, and
Yeah.
not just on the court, it's off the court, and
Yeah.
he's taken accountability, and he's, just the fact that he feels comfortable here. A lot of times it's just, I feel like, in Boston, he didn't have that, that kind of relationship with the coaching staff or with the front office or anything like that. And again, he was kind of the elder statesman amongst a bunch of young kids. And he said it himself. He wasn't ready to be a leader. He wasn't ready to be that guy that could, that could kind of lead a team. And then Brooklyn, I feel like, wanted to team up with his buddy in Kevin Durant, and, the whole James Harden saga, and, kind of things went awry there.
In
And
the
then,
front office.
the front office, which we've heard now from multiple players, about the front office in Brooklyn. So it may not have been Kyrie and Kevin Durant who
Stay away.
Yeah. I think there needs to be something said about that too. But, the relationship he's got with Nico Harrison, and the fact that Jason Kidd was his idol growing up, and the fact that they're so close, like, excuse me, the fact that they're so close, that plays into a lot of it. And I think that was a reason why Dallas felt comfortable making that trade last year, knowing that they can build that and foster that relationship. And it's easy to get along with a guy like Luka. And he's shown it on the court and off the court. Hats off to Kyrie, man, because Kyrie has been a model citizen, a model player, and a great leader for this team. And he has embraced the city as much as the city has embraced him, I think. And I think it goes both ways, the love that Kyrie and Dallas share for one another.
Yeah, I've said it since day one. He's been incredible as a leader, as a player, as a person. Because you see all the hoopla on national TV, but I gave him. I don't base my opinion on someone from what I hear on TV.
Yeah.
Just not just players, just people. You have to see how they are with your own eyes. And I've seen nothing but great things. Even Lucas said it last night. He's always positive energy, not even 1 second of negative energy. And the whole team, follows him. He leads huddles. He talks to younger players. He keeps them loose when pressure is high in intense situations, and he keeps the team serious when there's loose situations where you got to tighten up. So he's been incredible. And they're gonna need him second round. So Shahnavaz, last word. I mean, this is the preview. Game 1 is Tuesday. Good thing to have a few days for the rest.
God,
And
yeah.
before I talk about the Thunder, shout out to PJ. I mean,
Yep.
his pose is going viral. It should be on. It should be in Walmart's. Everywhere you see any toys have a PJ pose. I mean, they,
Love it. I love it.
but he's played great. He stepped up, especially defense. So Shahnavaz, the Thunder. I mean, it's young team versus young team. Obviously you got 2 MVP candidates, and then you got Chet Holmgren as a second guy on the Thunder, and you got Kyrie, who's a co-star in Dallas. So what are you looking forward to the most against the Thunder?
Yeah, the regular season matchups were a little weird. I think that obviously Dallas lost the last game of the year and was resting everyone. And, right after the trade deadline, I think they beat the Thunder by like 40 or 50. So in early in the year, they lost again to the Thunder. So you can't really put too much stock into those matchups. The Thunder are a really, really good young team. The question is, are they ready? Are they ready to put it together now? Dallas, I think, has enough, has that leadership from Kyrie and Kidd, who's been there, and has won a title as an assistant and has taken, the Mavericks to the conference finals a couple of years ago. Luka's had that experience as well for as young as he has. It'll be interesting to see. I think they match up pretty well with OKC. OKC plays really, really good defense. As also they're really, really good from 3-point range, but they lack a lot of size down low. And so I think Dallas does have an advantage when it comes to their physicality, being able to get in the paint and score. With guys like Gafford and Lively and PJ. It's going to be a really, really fun series. I think it's going to go 7, probably. I think 6 or 7. I don't see this being a quick series like Minnesota and Phoenix was. But it's going to be, I think it's going to be a dogfight because I think both teams are hungry. Both teams, have the ability to take over in games. But I'm expecting a lot of close games. I don't think we're going to see, a lot of 30-point leads like we did in this series. I think they're all going to be pretty close games, and the proximity is close enough where I think that benefits Dallas too with the rest and the travel. Like it's not, you're not having to fly across country to play your opponent. It's a 3-hour drive to Oklahoma City. So I think it benefits Dallas from a rest standpoint as well. And having that extra day off now that they won Game 6 definitely benefits Luka and getting that knee right, and hopefully Maxey with his shoulder.
Yeah, that's a good point that you brought up. Is the distance between the two locations? I mean, 3-hour drive, 1-hour flight. That helps. That's tremendous for these players who need rest as much as they can. It's much better than flying to California, and the same time difference as well. So the same time zone, central. So it's going to work out good. I think it's going to go same as you. It's going to be a long series, and it's going to be interesting how they strategize against SGA because Harden and PG, they shot a lot of threes, and SGA is like the total opposite. He wants to go in the paint so he could kick it out to his teammates for the threes, like you mentioned. So I'm curious how they defend him, and because he is the Thunder, he gets them going. Chet is a good player as a second guy. Williams is a rising star, but SGA is the Thunder. So I want to see how they stop him or limit him. You can't stop him. So and see how the calls are called, how the fouls are called. That would be huge.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think they need to go big. I think I think they can. They had success when Lively had huge success against Chet. It's kind of cool seeing the two rookies against each other. But Kyrie, I mean, that's what you just mentioned. The Thunder are young. They don't have a Kyrie. They don't have someone who's been through the wire. I mean, that's why I put my hat on the Mavericks, is simply because obviously you have Luka, who's been through the wire as well. He's been to a Western Conference Finals run. They have experience being the number one team in the second round with the Phoenix Suns. So like, I want to see Luka and Kyrie set the tone. Like, hey, we're part of the four horsemen in the Western Conference. Like, we didn't just get here; we are here. We're part of the four best teams, which they are. I mean, obviously they made it to the second round, but the whole season was about the Timberwolves, Nuggets, and Thunder. So I want to see them make a statement and say, can you imagine them going to a Western Conference Finals after the first half of this season?
Man. And especially after last year, I mean, two trips to the conference finals in 3 years. I mean,
lottery to Western Conference Finals.
That's unbelievable, and that's hats off to Kidd. That's hats off to Nico.
Extension. He wants it. He's backing it up.
Extension's coming. I mean, hats off to everybody. I mean, everyone, man. Like you and I would not be. You and I did not think that this team was conference finals worthy. Or even second round worthy, I think, at the beginning of the year. We predicted them to finish 7th, and even after the trade deadline, like it's fascinating to me because it, very rarely do you see players like Gafford and Washington mesh that well, that fast.
And they're young. They fit the timeline for Luka.
It's fantastic. Like the fit is perfect. Give credit to them as well for understanding their roles and really playing into it. The other thing I'll say about OKC is they've had some trouble with rebounding too. I think Nurkic had 20 rebounds against them, 30 rebounds against them in one game. So I think advantage Dallas there as well with Gafford and Lively. And OKC's small, man. Like other than Chad, isn't everyone like 6'5" and under, 6'6" and under? Dallas, you've got guys that are all 6'7" other than Kyrie. So the Mavericks have some strengths there, but OKC's been one of the best teams in the league all year, so it's gonna be a dogfight.
It's gonna be a dogfight. Not only the bigs, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, Josh Green's a good rebounder. Derrick Jones Jr., you have to watch your head for him on offensive rebounds, especially defense. But PJ Washington's a really good rebounder. It's just gonna be interesting how the Mavericks, finish in the first two games. Obviously, you want to split. But if you can make a statement and come back home 2-0, that would be huge. But obviously, it's going to be a long series. But you definitely want to come back with a split. But if they can make a real statement, Luka's getting rest, Kyrie's getting rest. The team is finding confidence. The team is believing in themselves, especially like the young guys, Lively, Josh Green, others. You can really see something building here, and it's gonna be exciting to see. So y'all see our usernames. Make sure y'all follow us on social. Make sure y'all subscribe and like to the podcast, and we will talk to y'all soon. Mavs versus Thunder. Versus Thunder. Second round. It's gonna be just as good as the Timberwolves and Nuggets. My goodness, those are four tough teams.
I'm excited.
The Eastern Conference, but. A cakewalk for Celtics.
Rest until June.
Goodbye, everyone.